What if your paralyzed child's only hope came from a homeless 9-year-old? Watch till the end to see how one forgotten kid defied doctors, proved everyone wrong, and helped a little girl walk again with nothing but patience, grit, and a towel. One moment in this video could change the way you see hope forever. Picture a crisp Saturday morning in downtown Birmingham, Alabama, the kind that makes your breath puff like smoke and turns your fingertips into ice. Outside the Children's Medical Center on 7th Avenue, grown-ups hustle through the revolving doors, scarves flapping, coffee steaming, each one racing some private worry. Off to the side, on a flattened cardboard box, sits a boy. 9-year-old Levi Boone Walker leans over a scarred notebook, sketching shapes only he understands. His coat hangs past his knees, one boot stays together with a strip of silver duct tape, and a red knit beanie nearly covers his eyes. He never asks for spare change. He doesn't hold a sign. He just watches. Quiet, patient, steady. Most Saturdays, the staff let him be. They tried shooing him away the first few weeks, but stopped when they realized he wasn't a problem. Everyone assumes he's waiting on family, maybe a sick sibling, maybe a ride that never shows. Nobody digs too deep. In a place full of fragile stories, you learn to mind your own. Across the street, a silver Range Rover idles beside a fire hydrant. Behind the wheel sits Hank Whitmore, late 40s, expensive suit rumpled like he slept in it. His temples are peppered with gray, his ties loosened, and his eyes carry the bruises of too many sleepless nights. Money isn't his issue. You can tell by the flawless paint on the SUV, but hope is in short supply. In the back seat, a booster chair cradles 6-year-old Maisie Whitmore. Brown curls frame her face. A pink blanket hugs her small legs. Since the accident, those legs haven't moved. She stares out the window, not speaking, not crying, just apart from everything. Hank climbs out, gently lifts Maisie, and heads for the entrance. He almost walks right past Levi, everyone usually does, but the boy notices them first. He studies how Hank holds her like she could crack. He sees Maisie's eyes stay fixed on the sky, refusing to look at the building, swallowing people whole. And for the first time that morning, Levi stands. "Sir," he says, voice low but clear, "I can help your daughter walk again." Hank stops cold. The words aren't a pitch or a prank. They land like a statement of fact. He turns, brows drawn. "What did you say?" Levi tucks the notebook under his arm. "I can help her walk." Hank tightens his grip on Maisie. "That isn't funny, kid." "I'm not joking." The boy's calm unnerves him more than any scam could. Hank's gaze flicks over the duct-taped boot, the too big coat, the cracked glasses dangling from Levi's collar. Scam or not, he doesn't have bandwidth for this. Without another word, he strides inside. Hours drag by, a blur of therapy updates, neurology consults, endless reminders about managing expectations. Yet one sentence keeps circling Hank's head like a fly in a jar. "I can help her walk again." By early afternoon, he exits, colder in spirit than when he arrived. As he approaches the Range Rover, there's Levi, same spot, same notebook, only this time the kid watches him like he's been waiting. Hank buckles Maisie in, then rounds on the boy. "Why would you say something like that? You think suffering's a joke?" Levi's gaze never wavers. "No, sir. You don't know her story. I don't have to." Hank huffs. "You're 9, almost 10, and you're sitting out here with no coat that fits and tape on your shoe. What could you possibly offer?" Levi's fingers trace the notebook's edge. "My mom healed people. She was a physical therapist. She taught me things. Said the body remembers even when it forgets." "So you watched a few stretches and now you're a miracle worker?" "I watched her help a man walk after 5 years in a chair. She used patience and faith, not machines." A nurse strolling by gives Levi a friendly wave. A janitor nods. Clearly, the kid's known around here. "I'm not handing you cash," Hank mutters. "I never asked." "Then what do you want?" Levi squares his shoulders. "1 hour. Let me show you." Hank glances at Maisie. Her eyes are open now, following the exchange like a silent referee. He should walk. He should call security. Instead, he hears himself say, "Harrington Park, tomorrow, noon. Don't be late." "I'll be there," Levi replies, nothing but certainty in his tone. Back home, Hank pretends to work, but only replays that encounter. Maisie wheels into the doorway. "Daddy?" "Yeah, baby?" "Who was that boy?" "Someone from the hospital." "He sounded like he believed it, believed I could walk." She taps 2 fingers across her wheelchair armrest like tiny legs. For the first time in months, Hank feels something sharp and dangerous press against the numbness. Hope. Harrington Park wasn't anything special. The basketball court had cracks like spiderwebs. The swing chains creaked like old porch doors. A tired field tried to pass for a soccer pitch. By Sunday at noon, it usually sat empty, just breeze, birds, and busted bleachers. But not this Sunday. At 11:45, Levi Boone Walker was already there. Same oversized coat, same duct-taped boot. But his notebook was packed away, replaced with a folded towel, a bottle of water, and a small gym bag tucked at his feet. He sat quietly on the bench beneath the big oak tree, watching a squirrel dart across the fence line like it had somewhere to be. A couple of kids played half-hearted basketball nearby. A dog barked. Wind stirred the air like a whisper. At 12:07 sharp, the silver Range Rover pulled up. Hank Whitmore stepped out without saying a word. He opened the back door and gently lifted Maisie, her pink blanket tucked around her waist. She wasn't smiling, but she wasn't quiet either. Her eyes were wide open, searching, watching. Hank wheeled her over without meeting Levi's eyes. His shoulders were tight again, jaw clenched. His arms folded like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Hi again," Levi said, polite as ever. Hank gave him a curt nod. "Hi, Maisie," Levi added, softer. This time she smiled just a little. "Hi," Hank blinked. "How do you know her name?" "You said it yesterday," Levi replied. "I remember things." He gestured to the towel. "So, what now? Magic carpet ride?" "No, sir, just the basics." He knelt by the bag and pulled out the same odd collection tennis ball, jar of cocoa butter, a soft rice-filled cloth pack, and a fresh pair of socks. Hank squinted. "That's your kit?" "It's what my mama used," Levi said. "Heat for muscles, pressure points, skin stimulation, all stuff she taught me." He turned to Maisie. "Can I work with your legs? Nothing'll hurt. And if it does, you just say stop." She looked up at her dad. He hesitated. "Be careful," he said finally. Levi nodded. He unwrapped the blanket and placed the warm rice pack across Maisie's thighs. She flinched a little. "Too hot?" "No," she said. "It feels good." "Okay," he whispered. He didn't rush. He didn't talk too much. He let the quiet stretch and settle, then gently began rotating her legs. Small movements, side to side. Knees flexed just a little, ankles twisted loose. Nothing forced. Hank watched, arms still crossed. "You sure you know what you're doing?" "My mama used to take me to clinics and shelters," Levi replied without looking up. "She worked with veterans mostly, folks with nowhere else to go. Said, everyone deserves to feel human again. I used to carry her bag." "And she just taught you this?" "Yeah." Said the body don't always need fancy, just needs attention. He tapped lightly on Maisie's kneecap. "You feel that?" "No," she whispered. Levi didn't flinch. "That's okay. I'll keep asking." And he did. He kept her talking the whole time. Favorite snacks. Favorite cartoons. Her dog's name. What she wanted to be when she grew up. At first, her answers were short. Then she got curious. "Do you go to school?" "Used to." "Why not now?" Levi hesitated. "Mama got sick. Then she passed." "Oh." He gave her a small smile. "I've been figuring things out since." She nodded, eyes lowered. "Sorry." "Thanks." Hank's body language started to shift. His arms dropped a little. His eyes weren't so guarded. After about 30 minutes, Levi tapped her ankle again. "You feel that?" Maisie blinked. "Kinda. Like pressure." Hank leaned in. "She says that sometimes during therapy." "Sure," Levi said. "But those sessions are inside. Machines everywhere. Lots of noise. Kids tense up. Muscles shut down. But here, he waved at the open sky. Air, trees, space to relax. That helps. Hank didn't say anything, but the way he stared at the ground said he was thinking hard. Levi helped Maisie wiggle her toes. She tried. Nothing obvious happened, but she didn't seem discouraged. We can try again next week, Levi said, brushing off his hands. Takes time, but your legs still remember what to do. You just gotta remind them. Maisie smiled, bigger this time. Okay. Hank cleared his throat. We're not promising anything. I'm not either, Levi said. I'm just trying. Hank studied him, really studied him for a long beat. Then he reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a folded 20, and held it out. Levi stepped back. No, sir. I don't want your money. Then why do this? Levi shrugged. Because your daughter smiled. Hank looked down at Maisie. She was still smiling, and he realized she hadn't done that since before the accident. He didn't say anything else, just nodded once and walked back to the SUV. But as he pulled away, he glanced in the rearview mirror. Levi was still there, standing under the oak tree. Quiet. Hands at his sides, eyes focused like he'd seen a future nobody else could. The next Sunday rolled around warmer than the last. Spring was flirting with Birmingham, teasing buds out of trees, stirring the breeze with the smell of damp soil and sunshine. But Levi Boone Walker still wore his mama's old coat, not for warmth, but for something else. Something like armor. She used to call it his helper's coat, said every good healer needed something that reminded them why they care. At 11:45, he was already at Harrington Park, laying the towel down just like always. The bag was neatly opened, the socks rolled, the rice pack prepped. He lined everything up like it mattered where each item sat. To him, it did. At exactly noon, the silver Range Rover rolled up. This time, Maisie Whitmore was grinning before the wheels even stopped. Her curls bounced as Hank lifted her from the seat and into the chair. Hey, Levi, she chirped. He smiled. Hey, superstar. Hank looked a little different this time. Still tired, sure, but the heaviness that used to press down his shoulders had lightened. He gave Levi a simple nod. That was more than last week. The session began the same way. Warm pack on Maisie's thighs. Gentle stretches, toe flexes. But something about today felt different, like the ground under them was shifting, just a little. Can you press your heel into the ground? Levi asked softly. Maisie closed her eyes, concentrating. Nothing happened. It's okay, he said calmly. Sometimes it takes your brain a minute to find the path. It's like walking through a crowd. You gotta push through. Behind them, Hank stood with his arms crossed, not defensively, but for warmth. He wasn't shutting the moment out this time. He was leaning into it. Why do you do this? Hank asked suddenly. Levi glanced up. Because I remember what it felt like when my mama helped people. She made them feel like they mattered. I want to do that too. Hank nodded slowly, as if letting the words sink down somewhere deep. You ever think about doing something else? Sometimes, Levi admitted. But this feels right. They both turned toward Maisie, who was tapping her toes now, not much, but it was there. The tiniest twitch, a whisper of motion, and it was real. Hank didn't speak. He just stared at her feet. The weeks that followed slipped into rhythm. Every Sunday, same time, same spot under the oak. Levi added new things, rubber bands for ankle strength, tennis balls under the arches to help Maisie's brain remember where her feet were. He showed Hank how to massage behind the knees to wake up quiet nerves. He explained how every nerve had a job, even when it stopped talking for a while. And then came the fourth Sunday, the bad one. Levi showed up on time like always. But when the SUV pulled up, he could tell before the door even opened, something was wrong. Maisie's eyes were red. Her face turned away. Hank looked mad. Not at Levi, but at the world. She doesn't want to do it today, he said flatly, setting her in the chair. Maisie kept her arms crossed. Levi approached slowly. What happened? She didn't look up. I tried to move my legs this morning. Nothing happened. Again. I'm tired of trying. It's pointless. Hank looked away, jaw clenched. She's been like this all weekend, he muttered. Levi knelt beside her chair. You think I never get tired? She didn't answer. You think I didn't cry sitting in a shelter watching my mama get sicker knowing I couldn't fix it? I was just a kid. I still am. But I'm still here. Her eyes finally shifted toward him. You're allowed to be mad, he said gently. I get mad too. But if you stop now, that part of you that wants to walk might stop trying too. She stared at the ground, lips tight. I don't want you to give up, he whispered. Because I haven't. Silence stretched out like a held breath. Then Maisie whispered, I'm scared. Hank turned so quickly it startled Levi. That was the first time she'd said that out loud. I am too, Levi replied. But scared don't mean stop. It just means you're close to something big. Maisie wiped her face with the sleeve of her hoodie. Okay, she whispered. Let's try again. They went through the motions, slower, quieter. No jokes this time, just presence. Hank got involved too, helped shift her weight, encouraged every tiny twitch. Then it happened. Maisie moved her right foot, not just a toe, her whole foot. It slid forward slow, stiff, but real. Hank dropped to his knees beside her, blinking like maybe he'd imagined it. Do it again, he whispered. And she did. Levi didn't say anything. He just sat back on his heels, watching. That night, at home, Hank stood in his kitchen, staring out the window at nothing. He wasn't sure what was happening, but he knew one thing for sure. This boy, this duct-taped, soft-spoken ghost of a kid, was doing something no specialist had managed. And not just to Maisie's legs, to him. Something inside Hank Whitmore, something frozen, was thawing. Monday afternoon in Crestview Drive was quiet, the kind of quiet that made even the birds sound hesitant. Inside his home office, Hank Whitmore sat staring at a contract spread across his desk. It had been there since Friday, untouched, unsigned. His phone buzzed with emails and messages, but none of them seemed to matter. Not after what he saw in the park. Maisie's foot had moved. Not because of a therapist in a white coat. Not because of a breakthrough drug or new scan. But because a 9-year-old boy with patched-up boots and a warm rice bag said, "Let's try again." That stuck with him, haunted him, in a good way. He opened his laptop and typed in the search bar. Ezekiel Carter, Birmingham. Nothing. He tried again. Zeke Carter turned up a few old local newsletters, one mentioning a Monique Carter, a community health volunteer. Another showed a grainy photo of a boy with glasses handing out water bottles at a clinic. No address, no school, no trace. A ghost, Hank thought. Except he wasn't. By Saturday, they were back at Harrington Park. But this time, something had changed. Hank brought an extra mat, a fold-out chair, a small cooler of water bottles, and he brought a sandwich. He didn't say anything about it, just walked up, placed it beside Levi Boone Walker's bag, and stepped back. Levi gave a small nod. Thanks. He didn't eat it right away. He'd learned not to assume food was forever. You ready, Maisie? He asked. She grinned big. Let's do it. They started the routine. Heat packs, toe flexes, rubber bands. But then Levi paused. He looked at her, then at Hank. All right, Maisie. Let's try something different today. He reached into his bag and pulled out a fabric belt. He placed it gently beneath her knees, then turned to Hank. I need you to hold both ends. Like this. She's going to try to lift her knees. You help steady. Don't lift for her. Hank blinked. You sure? She's ready. Maisie took a deep breath. She didn't joke or hesitate. She just closed her eyes and focused. Her brow furrowed. Her lips pressed tight, and then her knees lifted. Barely an inch, but both of them. Hank stared like he was seeing magic. You did that? I did it, Maisie beamed. He swallowed hard. You really did. Levi nodded, watching the belt. The body remembers. You just got to give it time to speak again. Hank looked at the boy beside him. "You're something else, kid." But Levi didn't respond. He was already guiding Maisie through the next stretch. Afterward, as they packed up, Hank crouched beside Levi. "Where do you go after this?" Levi shrugged. "Around. You got a place to sleep?" Levi hesitated. "Sometimes." Hank exhaled slowly, rubbing his neck. He looked at the boy, this kid who kept showing up, never asking for anything. "You ever think about coming to stay with us? Just for a while?" Levi's eyes widened. "You serious?" "I got a guest room. You wouldn't be in the way." Levi looked down at his hands. "You sure your neighbors wouldn't mind a kid like me?" Hank let out a low laugh. "Man, after what you've done for my daughter, they'd better not say a word." Levi didn't answer, but Hank could see it in his eyes, something breaking loose, something opening. The next morning, just as the sun crept across the rooftops, Levi stood outside the Whitmore house. A backpack slung over one shoulder, a rolled-up blanket under the other. His shoes were still taped. His jacket still hung low. Hank opened the front door in sweatpants and a coffee mug. Right on time. From the hallway, Maisie ran up. "Levi." "Bet," he smiled. "Hey, superstar." Hank stepped aside. "Welcome home." That first week was quiet. No big speeches, no big changes, just small ones. Levi got his own room, a soft bed, clean sheets, a little desk where he could draw again. Every morning he and Maisie did stretches before school, even on days when it was raining or when she didn't feel like it. She was moving both feet now, not walking yet, but trying, and trying was everything. One night, Hank stood in the kitchen washing dishes. He looked over his shoulder at Levi, sitting at the table, sketching in his notebook. "You ever think about going back to school?" Levi looked up. "Sometimes." "You're smart. You could go far." Levi tilted his head. "I want to help people walk again, like my mama did." Hank dried his hands and turned. "Then let's figure out how to get you there." Levi gave a quiet smile. "Okay." They didn't say anything else. They didn't need to. That night, the house wasn't quiet the way it used to be. It wasn't sad quiet. It was the sound of pencils scratching paper, a dog barking down the street, Maisie humming to herself while brushing her teeth. It was life. It was healing. It was noise with purpose, and it all started with a boy who never knocked but still found his way in. It started with a nurse. One of the weekend staff from the Children's Medical Center. She was walking her dog through Harrington Park one Sunday morning when she spotted a familiar face. Maisie Whitmore. She hadn't seen her outside her wheelchair in months, but there she was, smiling, lifting her knees, tapping her toes, and standing next to her was that same quiet kid, the one who used to sit near the hospital's revolving doors, sketching in that old notebook. The nurse didn't interrupt. She just stood off to the side, watching from a distance, the leash slack in her hand. And when she went home, she told her sister, who happened to work in patient services at the hospital. Words started to move, soft and slow, like fog rolling through a valley. A few days later, a physical therapist approached Hank Whitmore in the hallway after Maisie's appointment. "Hey," she said casually, "someone told me your daughter's improving. That true?" Hank gave a slow nod. "Yeah, thanks to someone we weren't expecting." That weekend, when the Whitmores pulled into Harrington Park, something was different. Two other families were waiting by the bench under the big oak tree. One had a boy with leg braces and a walker. The other, a girl recovering from a stroke. Both sets of parents wore that same look Hank recognized in himself from weeks ago. Desperation trying not to look desperate. They had heard about the kid in the duct-taped boots. The one helping the Whitmore girl move her legs again. Levi Boone Walker didn't say much when he saw them. He just looked at Hank, who walked over slowly. "You don't have to," Hank said quietly. Levi adjusted the strap on his bag. "I want to." That day, he gave up most of his usual session with Maisie. He worked with the new kids patiently, deliberately, just like always. He showed their parents how to do the warm rice packs, how to guide the movements, how to talk to their children without pity. "You're not broken," he told one boy, holding his knee steady. You're just learning a different way to be strong." Maisie sat nearby, watching. She didn't complain, she didn't pout. She just folded her hands in her lap and smiled as he worked. On the drive home, she said, "I like watching him help people." Hank glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "Yeah? Yeah, it makes me feel like I'm part of something good." He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. That one sentence did more than any thank you ever could. By the next weekend, 5 families were waiting. The week after that, 11. A local pastor brought folding chairs. A nearby diner started dropping off bagels and coffee in cardboard carriers. Someone printed flyers on yellow paper that read, "Free movement sessions. Sundays at noon, Harrington Park. Bring a towel." They didn't list Levi's name, but everyone knew. And then a local reporter showed up. She wasn't flashy. She didn't bring a big camera crew or ask invasive questions. She stood off to the side, taking notes as Levi helped a little girl with cerebral palsy wiggle her ankles. When she finally approached Hank, she asked, "Do you think this is real? What this boy's doing?" Hank thought about that for a long second. Then he said, "Yeah, it's as real as anything I've seen in a hospital." The story ran the following Sunday in the Birmingham Post, second page, right beneath a weather map. 9-year-old with a gift helps dozens heal in a city park. They didn't print his last name. Levi had asked them not to, but word spread anyway. People found out. A local doctor offered to mentor him. A nonprofit emailed about funding equipment. A retired teacher offered free tutoring. And for the first time since his mama passed, people didn't just look at Levi, they saw him. But Levi never changed. He still laid out his towel the same way every Sunday, still brought the same bag, still wore the same patched boots, still started each session with Maisie before helping anyone else. The park that once echoed with rusted swing chains and the quiet hiss of the breeze had become something else entirely. A place full of hope and movement and community. And at the center of it all was a kid who once had nothing but a notebook and a memory. 9 Sundays had passed. 9 Sundays of shared towels and laughter and tiny victories. But this Sunday felt different. Levi knew it before he even left the house. The sky was brighter. The air had a softness to it. Even Maisie was quieter in the back seat, focused, not nervous. Like she was getting ready for something important. They pulled into the park to find the benches full. Not just families now, but therapists, teachers, nurses. A few wore scrubs. A few wore suits. Someone had set up a portable speaker playing soft gospel music. But everything stilled when Maisie wheeled into the center of the field. Levi knelt down beside her, towel already spread. No big speech, no build-up, just a quiet nod. "You ready?" She nodded back. No smile this time, just that look steady and sure. Hank moved behind her, hands under her arms. Levi took her knees, guided them into position. "Same as before," he said. "We help you stand. You do the rest." She closed her eyes. 1, 2, 3. Hank lifted. Levi steadied her knees. And then she stood, wobbly, trembling, hands fluttering, but she was standing, on her own. The park went completely silent. A mother covered her mouth. A boy with a walker whispered, "Whoa." A dad started crying openly. Maisie opened her eyes and whispered, "I'm standing." Levi blinked hard. "Yeah, you are." Hank stood frozen. He didn't move. He didn't breathe. Then, slowly, he let go. She didn't fall. She stayed up. 1 second, 2, 3. And then Maisie Whitmore, age 6, brave and fierce and full of light, took a step. Then another, and a third, before falling into her father's arms. He caught her mid-laugh, mid-cry, mid-everything. "You did it," he whispered into her curls. "You really did it." She turned to Levi, grinning through her tears. "You said I would." He gave her a tiny grin back. "I said we'd try." That afternoon, nobody left quickly. People lingered. Some prayed. Some hugged. Others just stood in a circle, holding their breath and hoping it wouldn't all disappear. Levi sat back on the bench, notebook resting on his knees. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. He'd already said the only thing that mattered. That night, back at the Whitmore house, things were different, but not in a loud way. The dinner table had an extra plate. The lights felt warmer. Maisie kept retelling the moment she took that third step like it was the climax of a bedtime story. And then Daddy let go. And I didn't fall. And then I stepped again. She even acted it out with her fingers walking across her plate, giggling so hard her nose scrunched up. Levi Boone Walker just smiled quietly, spooning mashed potatoes into his mouth, not saying much. That was his way. But Hank watched him from across the table with something new in his eyes. Not just gratitude. Something closer to awe. Later that night, as Levi was rinsing his bowl and placing it carefully on the drying rack, Hank leaned on the counter. "You know," he said, "you changed everything." Levi didn't look up. "I did?" Hank nodded. "My daughter walked today, and not because of some research trial or a private clinic, because of you." Levi kept his eyes on the faucet. "It's what my mama would have done." Hank's throat tightened. "I wish she could have seen this." "She did," Levi said softly. "I think she sees everything." For a long moment, neither of them said anything. Then Hank put a hand on the boy's shoulder. "You're going to change a lot of lives, Levi." Levi turned toward him. "I already am." The next Sunday, a line had formed at Harrington Park before the Whitmores even arrived. There were families from other cities now, people who had heard the story from friends or the article or social media posts. Someone had started calling it the Walker Sundays, though Levi never liked hearing his name used. He said it wasn't about him. It was about movement, about remembering what your body forgot, about not quitting on something just because the world told you it would never happen. He still laid out his towel, still greeted every kid with the same gentle tone, still said, "Let's try," instead of "let's fix." He helped a teenager recovering from a car crash stretch his toes, taught a mother how to wrap a rice pack, showed a dad how to kneel beside his daughter so she wouldn't feel small. Maisie wasn't always the center anymore, and she didn't want to be. She became the helper too. Passing out socks, showing kids how to breathe through a stretch, cheering every tiny movement like it was a parade. One day, a woman with tears in her eyes hugged Levi tight and said, "I don't know who you are, but you saved my son." He didn't know what to say, so he just said, "Thank you." That afternoon, Hank sat beside him on the bench. "You still think about your mama?" "Every day." "What do you think she'd say if she saw all this?" Levi thought for a moment. "Probably something like, 'You got good posture, baby, but iron your shirt next time.'" He smiled a little. Hank laughed. "Sounds about right." Then he got serious. "You ever think about what's next, long term?" Levi shrugged. "I don't know. I want to keep helping people. Maybe get a real license someday. Be a therapist. Open a clinic where kids feel safe. No waiting rooms, no machines buzzing, just space. And someone who listens." Hank nodded. "You'll get there. We'll make sure you do." Weeks passed. The sessions continued. The crowd grew. And then one Sunday, something unexpected happened. A young man stepped out of a black SUV with a clipboard in his hand. He didn't look like a parent, didn't look like press. He walked up to Hank quietly. "I'm from the community board," he said. "We've been hearing things, good things, a lot of them, about this boy, what he's doing." Hank nodded. "We want to help." "Help how?" The man smiled. "Make this official. Turn it into a sponsored community wellness program. We'll cover permits, equipment, even find a physical therapist to supervise if needed. That way he doesn't have to carry all this alone." Across the field, Levi was laughing with a boy in a wheelchair, balancing a tennis ball on his foot. "Let me talk to him first," Hank said. That evening, as they ate dinner, Hank brought it up. "Hey buddy," he said, "there's an opportunity. Real one. Might mean more kids. More help. You wouldn't be alone anymore." Levi chewed slowly. "Would I still get to work with Maisie?" "Of course." He nodded. "Then okay." That week, flyers changed. Now they read, Sunday Movement Project free sessions for children with mobility challenges, led by a community of caregivers and friends. No names, no titles. Just movement. Just hope. Eventually, a small building near the park was donated. Not fancy, but clean, quiet. A place with mats and towels and heat packs. And on the door, someone painted a small mural. A little girl standing. A boy with a red beanie kneeling beside her. And behind them, a woman's shadow with open arms. No words, just the image. A few months later, on Levi's 10th birthday, Hank handed him a gift. It was a new pair of boots, real leather, sturdy soles, no tape needed. Inside was a note. To the boy who reminded us all how to stand. H. Levi didn't cry. He just laced them up, stood tall, and went to meet Maisie at the door. "Ready?" she asked. "Always." They stepped outside together, because in a world where so many people wait for someone else to fix what's broken, sometimes all it takes is a kid with a warm rice pack, a steady hand, and the stubborn belief that even forgotten legs can remember how to move again. So if you ever find yourself stuck, unsure, afraid, or ready to quit, think of Levi Boone Walker. Think of Maisie Whitmore. Think of a city park on a Sunday. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. You just have to keep showing up. Because sometimes healing starts with a whisper, "Let's try again." This story isn't just about a girl who walked again. It's about how healing sometimes comes from the most unexpected places, from a boy the world overlooked, from hands no one trusted, from faith no one believed in. It reminds us that expertise doesn't always wear a badge, and that compassion can do what machines can't. When a child with nothing offers hope to a family with everything, and that hope becomes real, that's not just a miracle. That's proof that being seen, being believed in, can change lives. Sometimes the world doesn't need more specialists. It needs someone who simply refuses to stop showing up.